Oh my God, really? Huh? That was horrible. But I had jingle bells to make up for it. It's the holiday season. I can screw up the beginning of my own show if I want to, right? Listen. You know what that's the sound of, YouTube? That's the sound of music that I have a license to, so you can't screw with me. It's Christmas, or the holidays, or Hanukkah, or whatever. Is this annoying or what? I picked these bells up. We went on the Polar Express ride up in Flagstaff, or Williams, Arizona. Happy holidays, everyone. God, that's horrible. One day we'll have real professionals doing this show. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying your holiday season. This is a pre-record so that we don't have to work closer to Christmas. And the Pursuing X team and myself, we want some free time around Christmas. So we're doing this now, a week plus before Christmas, but you'll be seeing this much closer to then. And tonight, of course, as advertised, I'll be talking to Kelly Farmer. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things. Something I did here that I got a confirmation of is that I will be taking Alan Steinfeld's remote viewing class at COSM, the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, out in New York at Alex Gray's facility. And I haven't heard back. Alan, of course, said he would do an interview with me. I'm taking my camera. And I have contacted the powers that be, and keep your fingers crossed. I've asked for an interview with Alex Gray, and hopefully interviewing Alan and Alex together, talking about art and consciousness. We'll see if that plays out. I can't promise that. I said I went to the Polar Express. I was going to wear this hat. I just have to show you this. I'm not like showing stuff off. But this hat, I wanted to wear it on the show tonight, but I can't wear headphones and wear this hat. It's kind of like Attila the Hun. It's faux fur, of course. But that is so fun and so stylish. And that was great up in Williams, Arizona, because it was cold up there. There was snow. So I'm in the high desert in between down in the valley and then up in the mountains. I'm in that middle range, but it's still the high desert. So it still counts. So yes, I'm going to be going to COSM in January. I'm going to be talking to Mark Gemini Thwaite at the Peter Murphy Show, the Bauhaus Retrospective Concert here in Phoenix on January 25th. That's going to be a busy, busy week. We do have episodes coming up that are about the Wickenburg ghost hunt that I went on, and we'll be playing some results. So keep that up. And without further ado, let me introduce tonight's guest. She has a show called Explaining Esoterica, and she also is doing some collaborative work, and we'll get into that in a second. Her name is Kelly Farmer. Kelly, welcome to the show, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Natasha. I'm very excited.
This is cool. This is cool. I like it.
It is.
So how are things in LA? I forget. Are you in LA proper or are you in Orange County?
I'm in Orange County. So
okay,
I'm
that's right.
Safely behind the orange curtain.
Yes.
What they call it. I'll be honest, a lot of people that live in Orange County don't really love going to LA because it's a very different vibe.
It is.
But, you know, that's where everything's happening. So I end up going there more often than not.
Exactly. Speaking of which, you and I are going to be in the same place at the same time on December 26th at Jimmy Church's holiday party at the Rainbow down on the Strip.
Yes. So that's only like a week away. That's exciting.
I know, right? So we're like, you and I have bounced back and forth a few messages on social media, but this is right here live on the air. It's the first time that you and I have talked. And then like a week from now, we're going to be meeting in person. That's kind of like crazy. So that's going to be cool.
It's going to be cool. And I think that there's going to be some really cool people there. I was looking at some of the guest list. I know that, I mean, I don't know if any of your viewers followed Jason Quit, but he's going to be there.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be interesting. I've met him a few times. I know his wife. So,
okay.
So yeah, they're cool people. If you need some crystals and some Egyptian poses.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm a big music fan, so I'm also curious about some of the musicians that might actually show up there as well.
Yeah, Jimmy is very connected in the music industry, so.
Yeah. No, that'll be a good time. So we'll have to get together and film some stuff back and forth and collaborate there on the spot. I'm hoping we can live stream together or something. That would be awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping so too. I'm picking up a few pieces that are gonna hopefully help with making that happen. So.
At first, I thought I was going to drive there, and the more I thought about it, and I'm going to fly in. I'm going to stay near LAX. I'm just going to Uber it there, Uber it back to the hotel. It's like, why do it? Why drive at all? And I don't have to worry about parking. How early do you think you'll have to go to find a proper parking spot? And only LA people will know what I'm talking about, or Orange County as well.
Well, you know, I'll be honest, when I went to the Bob Lazar premiere just a few weeks ago, I drove around parking wasn't actually that hard to find. I just accidentally drove past the parking. So it took me an hour to get back to the parking.
Oh, no.
But, I mean, I'm probably going to get to the Rainbow. I'm going to go there straight from work and then do my makeup in the car, I guess. So I should get there probably about an hour or so before it starts. So hopefully that's enough time. I'm hoping. We'll see.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
That's
so,
cool.
and there's gonna be pretty cool people there. So.
Yeah, very cool. So for the folks who may be watching or listening who don't know about Explaining Esoterica, would you like to fill them in on your podcast a little bit and explain what you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So Explaining Esoterica is a YouTube show similar to this one, where I interview different experts in ufology and different metaphysical concepts. But I also do shows where I bring on people that I know that are have done their own research. And I have them come on, and then we have kind of in-depth conversations versus interviews on these topics.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I have some pretty decent people coming on. And
no, you've had some very good guests. You've done well. And you're collaborating with Jimmy and Mika, Fascination Street. And how did that come about, that kind of mashup that you guys are working on?
So I've known Jimmy and Mika for probably at this point about 6 months. But we basically became really good friends over time. And, you know, we both have shows, and I've helped them out with a lot of their tech to get them going, because originally they were a podcast, but they wanted to move to video.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been able to help them move to video and kind of get things rolling in that way. So really, kind of over time, we realized that, you know, we had a lot of similar guests that we wanted on, and instead of trying to get, you know, huge guests on individually and kind of struggling with that, we decided to kind of work together and use our connections together to get some of the bigger people on that we both wanted onto one show instead of trying to get them on 2 shows. So with that, we've come up with what we call Esoterica Street, which at first was a joke. It was a joke at first. We weren't sure what to call it, but, you know, ended up working out because, you know, Fascination Street, Explaining Esoterica. So it's actually launching technically this weekend for Christmas. Yeah, so this will be the first official episode of Esoterica Street.
This is like a weird conundrum of time travel, because we're talking about the future, but by the time this is broadcast, that'll be in the past and it will have already happened.
Yes. So we're
I'm stupid. I'm just stupid.
No, that's not stupid. That's I was thinking about the fact that this will be played after that. So it just happened this past Saturday.
Yeah. Last week.
So we have the Christmas episode. We are also going to have a New Year's episode because my show is live. Explaining Esoterica is live on Monday nights and Friday nights. Unfortunately, Monday night is Christmas Eve, and then the following Monday night is New Year's Eve, and people aren't really going to watch. And plus, I, want to spend it with however.
Right.
So instead, we decided to kind of do that because they film on Saturdays. Moving forward after these 2 episodes, which we got some pretty cool people coming on. By the time people see this, it'll be after, so it's fine for me to say that you're coming on, Natasha.
Yes. Yeah.
And for our Christmas episode, we're actually having Jimmy Church come on as well.
Nice.
Which is a big secret that no one knows yet, but they'll know by now.
Right. Wow. That's cool.
Even Mika doesn't know. So that's a huge surprise for Mika too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this is groundbreaking information. I'm getting feedback.
Oh.
I can hear myself. Oh, no. There it goes. That's down. No, that's super cool. Yeah. I'd like to have Jimmy on the show as well. So what are some of your favorite topics to talk about? Do you have pet topics that are of particular interest to you that you focus on?
For me, my personal favorites are ancient civilizations and mythology. So those are really like my pet topics, but I haven't really gotten a chance to go into them on my show yet because really my show's only been on for almost 2 months. Prior to that, I had another show that I was on. So it's not like I'm new to all of this, but my current show is only 2 months, so I haven't gotten into it yet. I've had the chance in the past. On the previous show I was on, plus on for another project, I interviewed Freddie Silva.
Oh, cool.
Which was like, for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I can get him to come on Explaining Esoterica so that, he and I can have a conversation because that'll be really cool. But I don't know yet. We'll see. So yeah, that's really like where my interests lie. And hopefully as we go into 2019, I'll really get a chance to kind of go into that more and interview more authors and kind of get their points of view.
On the metaphysical end of things, are there topics within metaphysics that you're interested in besides?
Yeah.
The ancient man stuff. I like the woo-woo stuff too. I just try to balance it out.
I do like the woo-woo stuff. If anybody watches Explaining Esoterica, I get into a lot of woo-woo stuff. Because, I just happen to have some really good friends that happen to be, healers and psychics and things like that. For me, I love crystals. I have a crystal that's the size of my head that I just bought a few weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
It's a big piece of aquamarine.
Wait, show it again because the camera was on me but you have to make a noise.
It's as big as my head.
That's crazy.
So
what is that? What kind of crystal is that?
It's an aquamarine.
Oh, wow.
Which is my birthstone too. So
nice.
Yeah, so it helps. It's also supposed to help you with your throat chakra, so maybe it helps me talk more, who knows. But I'm really into crystals and also animal communication because that just kind of comes to me. So things like that.
That's cool. No, that's cool. I did a little bit of research on you, but there's not tons of personal stuff like that, and so I was kind of curious myself, but I think it helps people get informed on what they could expect from your show. But the fact that you're working with Jimmy and Meek and you guys are gonna be doing all that stuff for holidays, that's pretty amazing. I like that. That's very cool.
And we have some really cool people coming on to Esoterica Street because that's supposed to be about once, maybe twice a month, depending on if it's like really cool. We've confirmed like Nick Pope. And quite a few other people. I think we're trying to get Jimmy Church on. Heard rumors of Laura Eisenhower. So.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, switching gears a little bit here. You and I had talked about, and it's funny. I'm just going to pull this up on my phone as I look. we got talking about a topic on social media, and it kind of popped up, excuse me, here in the last couple of days. And it's about and I've said this before, it's kind of a caveat. I don't do left and right politics on this show because I think it's kind of useless. But in terms of just commenting on what's being talked about in the mainstream media, it's about feminist witches who are casting hexes on the president of the United States, and people are making quite an issue out of it. And as I started doing research today, and I'm sure you know this, and I just kind of want to elucidate for the viewers, some of this stuff goes back to October of 2016. The first is, and then October 30th of last year, and then October 10th of this year. So it seems like they kicked this topic up around Halloween, but for some reason it's made its way into the mainstream media again, currently right now. Today, technically, is Thursday, December 20th. So it's been going on the last few days. What do you know about these witches who are casting hexes? And being a person that deals with the metaphysical world and healing and so on and so forth, what's your opinion on that?
I've heard a lot about it, actually. I heard about it back in 2016 when he was first elected, before he became official, that they were going to do it. And I remember the person who told me saying, I'm not going to be a part of that. And I've heard it come up a few times. I know that they also did it to Brett Kavanaugh when he was confirmed.
Correct,
So
yes.
It's interesting. I personally, I to a degree believe in karma and things along those lines, as we're talking about the metaphysical. And doing something like that to someone, you're technically kind of taking on a lot of karma because you're doing something to them energetically, because that's the whole idea behind it. They're trying to either hex him or bind him to prevent him from doing things.
Right.
And from what I've read in my research on it, they feel like they've been relatively successful.
Yeah, well, I think it's a matter of debate, and I don't want to dig too deep into it, but I think that it might be fair to say, no matter what your political leanings are, that the president's biggest enemy is himself. And I think that's pretty evident for everyone to see, that he sabotages his own agenda much of the time. And, the way magic and magical influence works, that's kind of the way it works, is like kind of on the psychology of the person involved. It's kind of a, even though that energy is sent out by someone else, it's also meant to kind of be like self-replicating once it gets going, or, perhaps it might have to do with the amount of focus or intention, or maybe even the amount of people who are focusing attention on someone like that. Yeah. It might be one thing to think that one woman somewhere trying to direct some kind of energy at anyone might be one thing, but what happens if it's 5,000 or 10,000 women who are focusing energy on one individual? Do you think that has a genuine metaphysical collective effect?
Yes, actually I do. Like, I can give you an example, really, because it's kind of, if you think, you've heard of a tulpa?
Yes.
So the whole idea behind a tulpa is that if enough people think about it and believe in something, then all of a sudden it becomes real. An example being why people suddenly are started getting images of Slender Man.
Right.
So that's kind of, the power of the mind. And that's, a lot of what people say makes us special as humans, theoretically, is that we have this creative power. And with our creative power, we can do things. People can manifest. Where are my keys? They weren't there before. They turn around, the keys are there. Small things like that. So if you have all of these people focusing on something, saying, I want to either hurt the president or do whatever, or stop him from doing something, there's a possibility that that collective consciousness might be able to actually do something. And that's where it could become dangerous, really, at the end of the day. Not saying that not saying that I support him.
Right.
But I don't necessarily support doing something that could actually potentially have some sort of effect.
Right. This isn't really a conversation about the president so much as it is these practitioners of magic. And, that kind of, um, gets to the root of this in terms of, do you personally equate a hex with a binding spell, or do you differentiate between those things? Perhaps a hex being more aggressive or more offensive, whereas a binding spell has a tendency to be more defensive. And I'm generalizing, and I could be wrong.
No, I basically, yes, that's pretty much how I see it, that there is a difference between a hex and a binding spell. From what I know, a hex is more offensive and you're actually trying to take action against the person. Versus a binding spell, which from my understanding is really to stop that person from acting, which are two very different things and kind of incorporate two different ideas. So, and the thing is that when I was kind of researching this, I saw both sides. I saw people were doing both. So that's why I was kind of like, I don't know which one it is. So it's interesting because I mean, I knew a lady who did a binding spell on someone, and people are like, well, maybe a binding spell isn't that bad. Well, I knew a lady who did one on someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it involved freezing her pee. She took it a little far. But apparently by doing that, she completely froze that person's life. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't get a job. They couldn't make any money. They couldn't basically live because their whole life was frozen.
Wow.
So even that is powerful based on what I've heard and what I know. So
Yeah. And speaking of that, have you had any personal experiences with this? Are you a practitioner? What's your involvement in this world?
I am not a practitioner. I had looked into it in my youth. I think a lot of people do at some point or another.
I know I did. Sure.
But I've come across and known a lot of people who do practice. I mean, I myself, I practice Buddhism because just ethnically it works
right
out.
No, I'm a big fan. I've done Shambhala meditation. I attended some classes in Orange County, actually down at by the University of Irvine. On Sundays there is a Shambhala meditation, and they do a walking meditation during that sitting, and then they do a sitting. They do two different ones.
Yeah, I'm actually familiar with that. I actually graduated from UC Irvine.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
I love that campus. That's a great campus.
It is a great campus. It's a great school, a great campus. But yeah, so no, I never fully practiced. I looked into it. I thought about it for a moment. But yeah, I've known people that have, and they've told me stories and shown me stuff. And yeah, it can be pretty intense.
Yeah. Have you had any direct paranormal experiences or UFO sighting or any other kind of anomalous experience?
Yes. Yes, I have, Natasha. There's this painting behind me that actually shows my experience.
Okay.
When I was a child, I had a face-to-face physical contact experience with 3 ETs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They put me in a simulation. I know it's gonna make me sound crazy.
No, I love this. I'm really anxious to hear the details. As much as you are comfortable with sharing, I'm genuinely interested.
So basically, I was almost 5 when it happened, and I can remember it very vividly because it was kind of traumatic. I'll be honest. I got out of bed and I went to the kitchen where my parents were, and I could see my parents, but I tried talking to them and they weren't responding. It's like they couldn't see me.
Oh, wow.
So then I was like, well, this is wrong, obviously. And also I noticed that my father was sitting at the wrong table because we had a dining room, but we also had a kitchen nook. So he spent time in the kitchen nook, never in the dining room. The dining room had like a big glass uncomfortable table. So he was reading the newspaper at the dining room table, not at the kitchen. So it's kind of like Inception, at the beginning where he's like, this carpet is wrong.
Right. There's some detail.
Yeah. So At that point, I was like, this is wrong. And then I turn, and then basically that happens. There's 3 ETs there. They're glowing red. They look like they were made of lava to me.
Oh, wow.
And, I kind of freaked out and I screamed to my parents, but obviously they weren't really there. And then all of a sudden it was like the simulation broke and everything kind of went away. And it was just me and them. And then they grabbed my arm and it hurt really bad. And then I woke up in my bed. And my
like
mom,
they had a muscular grip, like they physically hurt you by grabbing you?
Grabbed my arm. Yeah. It felt like they burned me when they touched me.
Oh, wow.
I woke up and, I was kind of panicking, screamed for my mom. She came in the room. The window was open. There were lights coming in from outside. And she had no idea what was going on. And then, I'm shaking and I was cold like I had been outside, even though I was in my bed. So it made no sense. And I actually I'll show you next week when I see you.
Okay.
I actually have like an indent in my arm.
Oh, wow.
From when they grabbed me. My mom even took me to the doctor. And the doctor was like, I don't know, I can't do anything about it. It's just there. It's going to be there forever. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now it's easy to imagine how that experience brought you to where you're at now and doing your show. But how has it impacted your personal life and how has that shaped your worldview growing up with that? Because I also had very briefly, I had a childhood Sasquatch sighting, a totally different kind of encounter, but very close, like within 20 feet. And I was 10 years old. So I understand what it's like to be a child and have some incredible experience and then also not really have the developed intellect or vocabulary to really convey the experience to the adults around you or even be believed if you can articulate it. And I think that's a really kind of a weird situation to be in. I know it was for me, and it impacted my life.
I bet it did. I mean, that's pretty intense, Natasha.
So what? Yeah. So for you, how did this? I mean, has this shaped your worldview? This encounter?
It has. I'll be honest. I actually had a phobia of aliens after that, probably until I was in my early 20s. So Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, I freaked out. I was okay with the skull, but at the end where they actually become CG aliens. Totally.
Right.
That movie Knowing with Nicolas Cage, totally.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, so I freaked out at the end. I had to actually leave the room when that part came in at the end. So it was just kind of, things like that. But the thing is that I was lucky when it came to my family because my family believed me.
Oh, good.
Because my sister didn't have a recollection of any experiences, but she had experiences where she would wake up like screaming, like, don't take me again.
Oh, wow.
My younger brother, who I shared a room with, used to have dreams of owls and had developed a phobia to owls.
Ah, yes. And that ties in with some other research.
Yes. So, I mean, my siblings always believed me. They made fun of me, but they believed me. And my parents believed me too. In fact, I'm in Mensa. So, and, I was identified probably about 3 years after this happened. I was identified as gifted, quote unquote. And I got sent to this special school.
Child prodigy. What areas did you excel in early on?
Well, see, that's the thing. And this is what drove my teachers insane, is that I excelled well in all subjects. It would just depend on what I wanted to excel in.
Okay.
So, you know how you take those tests and it's supposed to be like, well, how do you learn? Do you learn visually? Do you learn audibly?
Right.
I tested equally well in all of them. When I did the standardized testing as a child, I was tested in the 99th percentile on everything.
Oh, wow.
I know I don't talk about it that much because it sounds like I'm so smart. But I mean, all that happened. And, family would always attribute it. My mom's like, oh, it's because the aliens took her. And so they kind of, I mean, it did have some sort of effect. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think they've taken you more than once? Have they taken you in adulthood?
yes, I believe that they have. I think that, you know, it's not as obvious now.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had experiences, and but they're not as vivid. So I think that, either the technology has changed, or maybe I sleep differently now. But
Hmm.
we used to talk, when I talked to my sister about it, we used to talk about, sleep ray. And I think that that might be true, that they have something that kind of keep you asleep.
Something that crossed my mind when you talked about them touching you and hurting you and it feel like it burning,
Mhm.
that made me think of like an electrical shock. And, as we all know, electricity is a great way to short circuit the central nervous system. And so if they had, maybe something like an electric eel where they had some kind of shocking grasp, that's like a Dungeons and Dragons term, right? They have some kind of like shocking electrical grasp that could immobilize people, because electrical stimulation can immobilize muscles and
Mhm.
have all kinds of effects on the physical body. I don't know if anyone has ever made any kind of connection between ETs and some kind of electrical touch or ability that they might have, but I don't know. It's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean,
But that just crossed my mind while you were saying that. I was like, wow, that's like an electrical charge.
yeah, and I would probably compare it to that. It was very shocking, I guess, would be not too. But yeah, I mean, I kind of want to remember more about what happened, because obviously that's not the end of what happened. That's
Right.
just the end of my memory. Obviously,
Would
something else happened after
Have
that.
you considered doing hypnotic regression, or is
That's
that scary to you?
So that's something I've actually been throwing around a lot in the past few months. So there's a few people that do it. I mean, Lori McDonald would be probably like the best person to do it, but there's another lady, Yvette Smith, that lives in LA. So
Ah,
it's probably easier for me to access. So yeah, if I do, I'll let you know, Natasha.
yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. I've been considering having someone regress me for my Bigfoot sighting,
Mhm.
and having Michael film it. Like I'd be willing to do it for like an episode of my show,
Yeah.
and I think that'd be kind of fun because like the sighting, like I remember it like it was yesterday. Like, I mean, it is burned into my memory with
Mhm.
a certain crispness that anyone who's had any kind of really shocking or traumatic, and it could be positive as well, any kind of experience in life that makes a tremendous impression on you in the moment. There's just, our brains are wired to really latch onto that memory. It's so intensely strong.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
So, having had this experience, I, I don't want to let go of this too quickly. Do you feel, did you have any kind of experience that was like implants or anything like that, or any other evidence? I know you talked about the place in your skin, but is there any other evidence of physical manipulation or implants?
I mean, that would probably be the biggest evidence of anything. I People have asked me, do you think they put an implant in? I think it's possible that they took one out,
Uh,
because there's missing flesh rather than, like a bump. But I don't know. I mean, other than that, and then I also have another mark on my other arm. So what someone once told me, when I told them the story, is they were kind of psychic. And they had had their own traumatic experiences with extraterrestrials. And they said, actually, I think they branded your other arm. And that's what that mark is on your other arm. So, and then they were trying to kind of say that they thought maybe there was like a group of people, that it wasn't just me.
Oh, okay.
That have a similar marking, but I have yet to meet anybody like that. So I don't know.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mean that in a negative way.
No, you're fine.
I wasn't minimizing your experience. So has this left you with a feeling of a mission or a purpose that is related to this experience? I mean, is that the driving force behind you doing this podcast, or have these experiences motivated you in other ways?
No, it's really, once I kind of let go of the trauma of it, then I went full force into all of this and doing research into extraterrestrials and really desiring to know more about why they're here, what they can offer us, what we can offer them, and all of that. It became, kind of like a motivation for me. If you believe in like mental abduction or dreams and astral travel and everything, I did have a very specific experience that happened just a few years ago when I was still kind of trying to move past the trauma,
Mm-hmm.
where it was kind of like I was in some sort of Senate or Congress where it was different groups of extraterrestrials. Okay. And they asked me to work with this certain group, but they looked like grays. So I was like, no. And then basically they're like, okay, cool. You don't want to, you don't have to. And then that was basically it.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean, I do think that I have a desire to get this out there. I want more people to know. I'm very much about disclosure.
Right.
So, because I think that there is more out there. I think there's more than just us. I think there's a lot of different races. I think that there's a lot to know. And I'm of a mind that the more people you can bring together, the more likely it is you'll be able to reach a common goal if you all have, if you're all willing to contribute. Right. So why wouldn't that also work universally, where if we work with other races, maybe we can reach a common goal together? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but
I mean, I'm like I'm like a lot of other people. I am in awe of humanity. I'm in awe of our technical prowess. I'm in awe of the fact that within the last 150 years, we've gone from discovering steam power to launching satellites and traveling in space. So that's quite a huge leap in technological and scientific understanding, on the big scale. And where was I going with that? That kind of spun me off in that way. What were we talking about? Oh my God. I just did this live on the air. It just left me. Because I can't believe that. Anyway, no, we're talking about this kind of experience, disclosure. That's what we were talking about. Yeah. And getting this information out there. Do you think that there are, and you touched on it, you said you think there are different races. Do you think that there are benevolent ETs? And do you think there are ones that do not have our best interest at heart and that they are somehow competing with each other, or at least aware of each other?
Yes, I do. I don't believe that all ETs are benevolent. Obviously, I don't. But I also don't believe that all of them are out to get us. I think that it is a mixture. Just like, there's a mixture of humans with different motivations. I think that there are different ET races with different motivations. And yeah, I do believe that they are aware of each other. Is there some sort of galactic federation that has rules about who can interact and who can't? I don't know. That much I don't know. But I mean, as I said, I'm an ancient alien, so I do believe that they've come before and that they have interfered at some point before. I have a minor in classical civilizations, so I know that there's proof that technologically we were at a high point and we had a dark age. prior to the Dark Age that everyone knows about that happened, you know, in
Like,
1300s to 1500s.
right, you're talking Lemuria and Atlantean mythologies.
Well, see, I'm not even talking about the mythologies. I'm talking.
Well, I
Yeah,
just
but
mean,
yes, but theoretically, yes, it
I
would.
wasn't discounting it by using the word mythology.
But
I was
yeah,
trying to use a $10 word there.
no, you're right. I mean, I think that timeline wise, if people believe in Atlantis and Lemuria, well, but
I
technically,
do.
yeah,
I certainly, I'll raise my hand and say, I do. I believe that there is a historical fact at the root of what later became a mythology.
yes.
I believe that it was real.
So there have been other Dark Ages prior to the one that we know about. That's something that's known that not a lot of people talk about. And that's actually where a lot of my research is going right now. Because I think it's cool. And that's really what got me interested in all of this in the first place. Is when I was at UCI, I was taking Latin just because I wanted to take Latin.
Ah.
And the teacher made this offhanded comment saying, you know, people didn't really think the earth was flat. We knew that the earth, he goes, we knew that the earth was round. We knew back then. He goes, and then we forgot. And then we learned again. And then we forgot. And that really stuck out to me because then he started talking about these different civilizations, like the Minoans and other people, and why
the pyramid builders scattered around the rim of the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans, building their pyramids, whether they're stepped as in South America or more smoothly designed in the classic Egyptian form. But there's all kinds of pyramids throughout Mesoamerica, Egypt, under the ocean, on the ocean floor, there are pyramids.
Yeah.
And I believe that all of that iconic architecture and some of the maybe occult practices, and I really do believe that what we think of as classical ancient Egypt is the surviving remnant of Atlantean civilization and culture. And if you're going to ask me if I have any real proof of that, no, I don't. I just read a lot of books on that subject, and I formed an opinion based on the multiple books that I read. And I do believe that Plato had some grain of truth, and when he was talking about the legend of Atlantis, that it was certainly rooted in some fact. Just like Troy, you know, people thought that Troy was a myth forever, and then you know Schliemann he doesn't happen upon it. He does his research and he goes to a particular spot and he proves that Troy was a real place and it was a real event. I mean,
yeah,
you know, yeah, it was a big deal. That happens all the time. You know, people forget about that. They take it for granted.
No, it's true. So, I mean, it was kind of starting that whole process, just that one Latin class that really kicked off me deciding that I wanted to take the minor in classical civilizations, that I really wanted to start looking into all of this. And that was a while ago. So, so yeah, and that's kind of what got me started really looking into all this, and it's just kind of blossomed from there.
So, do you see a future for yourself where you're going to write a book or do take some kind of step into the full-time lecturer, author career path, or are you going to kind of play it safe with a normal career, and then, you know, I don't want to call this an avocation. You know, you're an abductee, you had an experience. I think that goes a little bit beyond just a casual person that just wants to get on the internet or something. Like you have sincere motivations in all this. And I think that this is kind of playing out because of your experience, but you know, doing it for a living full time and making a truly meaningful living off of it, it's a tough gig, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just wondering, you know, is that the kind of career path you see for yourself, or what's that look like for you?
My end game in all of this is to be a published author,
Okay.
to publish my research, and you know, to do this full time. It's not necessary, and regardless of what I end up doing, because yes, I do want to write a book. I want it to get published. I want people to read it. I mean, yeah, it would be nice also to be a lecturer on the lecture circuit, but I can't.
Richard Dolan Press. I'm just dropping that.
So yeah, that's my goal. That's my dream. Fingers crossed. I'm still going to do my show though at the end of the day, because I think that that's a good way to expose other people to my research and to other people's research. And that's why I kind of pick, and I plan to continue to pick, specific types of guests to come on that are doing the types of research that I find interesting, because I want to share that with other people. So.
Right. No, good. And you're doing really great work on your show. And so just to be clear, I was on Fascination Street last week, and we touched briefly on it, but I just want to mention again for my viewers that the meeting and the mashup between Esoterica, explaining Esoterica, and Fascination Street is like a temporary thing, at least as we understand it now, right? You're going to collaborate once in a while, but then you'll both have your own separate productions and keep all those shows kind of going in the air.
Yes. So Explaining Esoterica is always going to be on Mondays and Fridays, because I have the time for that. Unfortunately,
is that Pacific time or
Pacific time, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay.
Because right now I do have a normal career. But Jimmy and Mika, they do Fascination Street every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific, because that's 7 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time in England. However, whenever we do Esoterica Street, it's going to be in that time slot on Saturday. Because they don't have the time to be able to do it any other time. So basically,
right.
Time-wise, it'll replace the Fascination Street episode for that week.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
But yeah, I'm going to continue doing my show. They're going to continue doing their show. Sometimes we'll join forces, and then we have a couple of other projects that we're working on. So Jimmy's stuck with me, I guess.
Does your boss watch your show? Does your boss know you do a show?
She knows I do a show. She's aware of the show. I think she might have watched one episode.
Oh.
My coworker that I work with in a room, it's just the two of us, she knows. She's never watched a show. But she knows about it. She loves the subject matter. She just doesn't have time to sit and watch a show. I actually just got outed to another coworker today, because I'm trying to get him to help me out with like a logo.
Yeah.
And he found out, and he is stoked. So
that's cool. Well, your boss should let you go to Area 51 with us.
I know. I'll be like, you really should.
I'd like to look into the camera at this time. Hello. If you're Kelly's boss and you think that's not important for her to go to Area 51 with us in March, you're sadly mistaken. You're cutting her soul out of her body by not letting her go to Area 51. Because she's such a valuable, smart employee, you should give her the time off, let her go with us, and then let her come back and continue to help you make more and more profits. Thank you for your time. There, you can make a clip out of that and just play that to your boss.
And I'm going to play it for her, and hopefully it'll change her mind.
Because the invitation is still open. Just because there was a scheduling conflict, like I said, if something changes, you're still welcome to go.
Thank you, Natasha. I will work on that one with her, and hopefully she'll change her mind.
Cool. So do you want to, besides the Christmas episode that you talked about that's going to be happening in the future, in the past when people see this, do you have any other big guests coming up into the new year or anything that anyone you'd like to advertise right now, people we can look out for?
I have Reverend John Polk coming on, if anybody knows who that is.
Yes, absolutely.
Quantum hologram. Matrix. Yeah, quantum hologram matrix. And he also has a book. He's coming on in January. You are coming on in January, Natasha.
Yes, I am.
And actually, I also have C.W. Chanther coming on in January.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I like him. I didn't know how to take him at first. I had to watch a couple of episodes to kind of get it. But then once I got it, I was like, okay, I get where this guy's coming from. So it just took me a little while to understand. That's okay. That says something about me, not about him.
I
But now
watched
he's
an
great.
interview with him, and it was a good interview. So
Thanks. Yeah, that's that by far my highest viewed episode, and I got a big CW bump off that, so I appreciate it. But I really like him as a person, and I like his point of view, and
mhm.
I just I like talking to him. I like going into his chat room as well when he's doing his show. I've done that several times. So anyway, Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it so much. And I'm going to play the happy music. So watch Esoterica Street. Watch Esoterica Street. Esoterica Street, the explaining Esoterica as well, and Fascination Street. Oh my God, it's all converging. And I still have my jingle bells. Doesn't really go with that music though. It goes with the Christmas music. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm still parked at 390 subscribers, or 290, and I'd like to make it to 300 before the end of the year. So please like and subscribe and share the video if you haven't done so already. I appreciate your time. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Yule. What else? If you're an atheist, we love you, and maybe you like sparkling lights and presents, and you don't have to believe anything, and that's okay with me as well. So anyway, take care. Kelly Farmer, explaining Esoterica. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, my friend.
Bye.